Welcome back. Embattled Congressman and now admitted felon Michael Grimm is resisting calls for his resignation. Democrats are asking Grimm to step down after he pleaded guilty to a felony tax charge in federal court this week. Grimm is digging in his heels.
I am certainly truly sorry for it, but I also accept full responsibility.
Doesn't accepting responsibility mean resigning?
Absolutely not.
Now, as we've reported, Grimm pleaded guilty to one count of aiding in the preparation of a false tax return. There are other investigations apparently in progress as well.
Which are actually worse because they're campaign finance investigations, and that truly impugns his fitness to serve. If he's filching money to get himself elected, I mean, that's even more troubling than this.
There's also a certain irony in the guilty plea from Grimm. Back in 2011, Grimm bashed Congressman Mike McMahon for accepting campaign donations from Charlie Rangel, who you just saw on your screen. That after the House Ethics Committee announced that Rangel violated House rules by taking sponsored trips. The committee also accused Rangel of other ethics breaches, including tax violations. Grimm's office back then sent out a press release with a statement from Grimm saying, at best, Mr. Rangel has proven himself to be incompetent of administrating the tax code, and at worst, he was cheating on his taxes. Either way, his actions are unforgivable.
He protests too much. Political hypocrisy. What a shock.
Around the table very quickly. Does Grimm resign? Should he resign?
I think he should resign. I think he does resign. Look, the people of Staten Island may love him, but when he gets down to Washington and he can't get on any committee, he can't get anything done, it gets very difficult to work in Washington.
Mark, does he? Should he?
Yeah, this guy's a done deal. I mean, the Republicans are trying to win the White House. They're not going to have this hanging over their head. He's going to be forced to resign.
Now, he would be a fool to resign right now, and Michael Grimm is no fool. Certainly these two guys are lawyers. They would advise him, listen, if you resign right now, when you are sentenced, you will be completely at the mercy of that judge, and in all likelihood, you will be sentenced to jail if you resign now.
Well, I think he's going to jail regardless.
So see, all of this may play out, as Counselor just said, in a way that Mr. Grimm doesn't control it. If he's sentenced to jail, he's got no choice. But at least right now, he's holding on for dear life by not resigning, and there's a possibility
he can't vote while this is going on. He can't participate. I mean,
it's a matter of when he resigns.
Right, we agree.
But I'm glad you brought that up, and we didn't talk about this before the show. I've heard you say that before, but is there actually a quid pro quo, or maybe not quid pro quo, but in sentencing for a public official?
Of course.
They can trade off the resignation of their public office? Well, let me ask the lawyers and see if that's legal. Can a lawmaker trade off resignation in exchange for a lighter sentence?
I would always say it would be part of a deal.
Of course.
That's legal? That's
not that it's
no,
it's
I
the
didn't say
judge
legal.
isn't going to be bound by any of that stuff. There's a plea agreement that's already in place. The government will make recommendations. Typically in Brooklyn Federal Court and Manhattan Federal Court, they don't take a position, the government, as to what sentence it will be. The judge doesn't have to accept any of that.
There are sentencing guidelines which Congress promulgates, which the judge does not have to follow. So he can get probation to jail time.
No, I understand that. But, I mean, there's talk of this trade happening, whether it happens officially or not. When Eliot Spitzer resigned, the prosecutor said, no, this wasn't part of the deal, but he didn't get any jail time. He resigned his office.
All this stuff is always discussed.
Yeah, you make a deal. If you're under investigation, you're convicted, part of that deal is going to be you give up office.
Now here comes the next question. Why is that acceptable? If I'm facing a criminal charge, resigning from RNN and FiOS 1 isn't going to get me a lighter sentence anywhere. And we don't want to treat, we like to say that we don't treat lawmakers differently than we do average citizens when it comes to criminal matters. Should lawmakers have that chip to be able to bargain with?
Yeah, we all have it. We actually all have it. Anybody who participates in a regulated industry, a doctor, a lawyer, if you are willing to step away from the institution, I should say, that got you into trouble, that's a factor in your favor for leniency, and you could trade time for that.
Just the one thing I wanted to add. Obviously, you're not making a deal with the judge that's presiding over you.
Correct.
You're making a deal with the federal prosecutor who makes a recommendation to the judge.
Now, there are in Brooklyn binding deals. There are in the federal rules of criminal procedure deals that bind the judge. In Manhattan Federal Court, they don't do that. In Brooklyn, they do. But this is not that kind of plea agreement.
Here's why I find this particularly offensive when it comes to Congressman Grimm. He was running for re-election this year, swore up and down on the campaign trail, I did nothing wrong, my constituents have the final say, they're the ones. And then 6 weeks later, he pleads guilty to a felony.
Constituents. This is a folk hero in Staten Island.
He ran for re-election for this bargaining chip. You could easily make the argument. The only reason he ran that campaign.
The hypocrisy in politics, who?
Well,
There's nothing. I mean, come on.
Yes.
But who's smarter than the actual voters in the district? I mean,
They love him.
They're the ones, right? That overwhelmingly
But
reelected
he told
him.
them up and down and left and right,
And?
I didn't do this.
And?
then 6 weeks later said, yeah, I did it.
Listen, if he gets sentenced to jail for 2 years, steps away from Congress, then gets released and runs for office again in Staten Island, he's going to win. They love this in Staten Island.
And they love him.
He's an excellent representative of the borough.
It is, the forgotten borough versus the rest of the world. And
Again,
he represents them.
I understand all of that. I appreciate all this. This just feels like such a gaming of the system.
Well, don't tell him, 'cause he'll throw you off a balcony.
Personal gain. I'm
But
taller
wait,
than
can
you.
you
so-
explain
Just
to me
wear a helmet when you go talk
explain
to
to me what's the gaming of the system?
He ran for re-election specifically to keep himself out of jail. That's my argument that I'm
I
making
think he's
right
going
now.
to jail regardless.
Or to try to keep himself out of jail.
But he has that right. I mean,
They elected him.
Yeah.
he has that right.
This is
But
this is the American system.
He's trading his public office for personal
But
gain.
who wouldn't?
What
public official
it doesn't
wouldn't?
matter who would or who wouldn't. I'm saying it's wrong.
It's
and it
right.
shouldn't
It's
be
not
allowed.
wrong because it's perfectly legal.
It shouldn't be.
It is the
legal. How about
American
that?
political system.
Well, I think
Why
that
shouldn't
the
it be
ju-
legal? Why shouldn't it be
Because you're not supposed to be able to trade a public position for personal gain, whether that means fleecing your own pockets, whether that means trading on insider information. He's using this as a get out of jail free card, or at least
Well,
he's
don't
trying
forget
to.
that Loretta Lynch is still the U.S. attorney. And if it looks like that's what's happening, she's going to get roasted when she becomes the AG. Don't be so quick to assume that this guy isn't going to do serious time no matter what happens.
All right, we're on that note, we will wrap up this segment, and we're going to take a break. When we come back, the FBI says North Korea hacked Sony Entertainment. And the movie that this is all about is now being called the move rather, is being called a cyber terror attack. So what's next? How and should the U.S. government step in? We'll be right back.